I wanted to make a video today to say one thing, and that is using a gun is easy. Defending yourself with a firearm is easy. Now, you can make it as hard as you want it to be, or you can make it as complicated as you want it to be. You can plan for these really crazy scenarios if you want to, but the reality is basic self-defense is something that's easy to do, something that's easy to learn. If it wasn't, little old ladies and people that have had absolutely no training wouldn't be doing it successfully every day by the thousands. Now, I know in the day of the internet commando, you're told all the time that you're going to be facing, armed terrorists that storm the mall or multiple armed assailants that rush your house, and you've got to be prepared for that. Well, first off, the notion that you're going to be prepared, that you're going to be capable of matching these people that came armed for war, these terrorists, with what you thought was comfortable enough to wear to JCPenney's while you're trying on new slacks is kind of a silly idea. The best way to be prepared for those people is for more people to be carrying what they thought was comfortable to carry. More people being capable of fighting back. And sadly, in the day of the internet commando, I think this big tactical training craze that's been so big for the last couple of years is actually acting counter to that. It's intimidating too many people from getting into it because they think, oh, I'm never going to be able to afford to take the kind of training I need, or I'm never going to be able to become an operator, so why try? I won't be able to be successful. That's just wrong. Now, a lot of people think I don't shoot or I don't take classes. I actually shoot twice a week. I just don't want to film it. And I also take training. I don't want to film that either. And I also don't want to advertise the idea to people that I think you have to take training all the time to be a good gun owner. Now, I've got a little something coming up soon that I might advertise a little bit, but then again, I might not, because like I said, I think it might go counter to what I want my channel to be. I don't want my channel to be some training channel. I want my channel to be the everyday person that is self-taught. I want my channel to be about that kind of thing. But like I say, I do take classes because I want to see what's going on. And one thing I see going on nowadays that kind of bothers me is because they've built up this big training, empire over the last few years, these big companies that are training, they've had to increase their market. They've had to make more people want to take training. And the only way you can make more people want to take this heavy-duty training is to convince them they need it. And often to convince these people they need it, they belittle the fundamentals. They belittle the basics. They belittle things that have worked for the last 40 years. Because you got to remember, these guys are salesmen. They're selling you a product. And often to sell you a new product, they have to teach you the old product isn't worth having. But the reality is the basics are still the basics. They have not changed. This whole idea that, people couldn't figure out guns for the first 150 years. We had no idea what we were doing. We were a bunch of monkeys with a stick, until about 2 years ago where a bunch of guys with beards and really tight t-shirts figured it out. And now they're showing us what to do. And that whole idea is really silly when you think about it. People have been successfully using handguns for decades before these guys even, I guess they tacti-crawled out of their mom's womb. But when they were doing that, there were guys that knew how to use a gun way better than they know how to use one now. There are a lot of old-time shooters that still use the old-style basics and are some of the best shooters that ever still lived. Their records are still unbroken to this day. And like I was saying, the worst part about this is the fact that they have to create a problem that doesn't exist to sell you a solution that you don't need. So like I say, they belittle the fundamentals. I was sitting in on a class not too long ago, like 2 years ago, where one of the instructors was belittling a guy because he said he occasionally uses a teacup grip. Now, the teacup grip is when you put your hand on top of your other hand like this to practice his trigger discipline at the range. And the instructor was telling him, oh, you should never use a teacup grip. You can never use a teacup grip. There's a really valid reason for using a teacup grip or a supported arm grip. One of the best ways to learn proper trigger discipline is to shoot one-handed. When a lot of people will shoot one-handed, when they shoot period, they'll squeeze too much every time they pull the trigger and it pulls their gun off target. When you shoot one-handed, you have to learn to just pull the trigger straight back, to not squeeze with the rest of your hand. You get your firm grip first, and then your finger is the only thing that does the work. And the best way to learn that is to shoot one-handed. Now, one problem, though, with training one-handed is that we as a species did not evolve to hold our arms outright like this horizontally for any long period of time. We're good at grasping things and reaching, but we weren't designed for that. There's a reason that's a punishment in the Army, because it's not something we were designed to do physically. So when you're practicing your one-handed shooting, if you want to use a teacup method to support your hand so you can keep your arm extended for longer periods of time and practice, there's nothing wrong with that at all. So I see so many people being intimidated into, oh, I don't want to be seen using a teacup grip or supporting my arm, when that's something you should be doing. That's something you should be doing to learn proper trigger discipline. They've had to tell you that that basic is wrong because they want to sell you something new. Now, not all trainers are going to do that, but some will. Most of them are pretty honest guys and still understand the basics are the basics, but there's some guys that have such an infrastructure built up now that they have to sell so many classes just to maintain their business that they'll do whatever they got to do to sell those classes. And I'm not even going to get into the fact that sometimes these instructors are just wrong. I have seen instructors personally try to teach a young guy how to hold a revolver in a way that would have blown the tip of his thumb off. Luckily, another instructor stepped in, but sometimes they get it wrong too. So in the end, the basics are still the basics, and that's what I want most people to remember. And things that were good 10 years ago are still good now. There might be different ways of doing it, but that doesn't mean they're better ways of doing it. And this whole mindset of saying the new way is the only way is just intimidating so many people. It's putting so many people off the mark. It's putting so many people in a situation where they just feel like they're never possibly going to catch up, or they're never possibly going to be that good, so they're not going to bother. And that's counter to what we need to be doing in the gun community. We need to stress the basics. We need to stress the fact that anyone can learn the basics. And then we need to stress the fact that if you want to learn more advanced things, there's an opportunity to go and learn more advanced things. Just because you're doing what your grandfather did or what your father did doesn't mean it's wrong. Now, I'm not saying if you've been doing something that's, technically flawed your whole life, you should keep doing it because that's what you do. But if it's something that's valid and it's been valid for 40 years, it's still valid now. If you have been doing something wrong for 40 years, the basics are easy to learn, so learn them and start doing it right. No matter how good you've gotten at doing it wrong, you'll probably be better doing it right. So one of the things I think we all need to start remembering is that it's easy to use a gun. Anyone can learn it. Anyone can do it. It happens every day. There's examples every day of someone being able to do it successfully with little or no training, despite who they are, what their infirmity is, etc. We need to get as many people involved in this as possible. Because like I said, our best chance of being able to defend ourselves is having as many people being able to defend themselves as possible. As I've said before, one guy with an AR and 500 rounds isn't anywhere near as good as 100 guys with 5 shots in a revolver. Those 100 guys with 5 rounds each are worth way more than that one guy with 500 rounds. So that's what we really need to be working for. We need to be working for a gun community where we have the 100 everyday guys who know the basics with whatever they choose to carry, because they're worth way more than the one elitist tacti-god over here, no matter what gear he's got or what training he's had. So get out there, buy a gun, protect yourself, protect your family, be part of the solution. Don't be a victim, but learn the basics first. And then if you want to learn more, by all means, learn more. Learn as much as you possibly can. It's not only valuable, it's fun. But if someone tries to teach you that the basics are no longer the basics and the only way to do it is the way they teach you to do it, find someone else to learn from.